local history, local culture, local events, your community. This is the Joe Kelly Show.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. We are at 1608 Genesee Street, home of the Oneida County History Center. We're going to give you a tour of the center, and we're going to be talking to Rebecca McLain. She's the executive director, and we're going to be talking to Patrick Reynolds. He's in charge of programming. They've got a great new exhibit that we want to tell you about. We also want to tell you about the upcoming dinner. It's a big dinner every year for the History Center. We're going to come right back with Rebecca McLain. Short break. And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. We're joined by the aforementioned Rebecca McLain, and she's the executive director down here at 1608 Genesee Street. How long have you been executive director? My mind is...
I think 3 years now. Time moves.
Yeah, it really does. And a lot of good things happening down here. One of the big things we want to talk about this first off is the Living Legend Hall of Fame dinner, which is upcoming. What's the date, the time?
Yes, so it is the celebration. The induction is Thursday, October 19th. The event starts at 5 p.m. We have a nice opening reception from 5 to 6. Monk Rowe and John Hudson are going to be playing some music for us. We're putting together a silent auction, and then at 6 we'll move into the, banquet hall for a buffet dinner and the induction ceremony.
It's a new venue this year, is it not?
Yes, so we're going to the Irish Cultural Center. So we try to move the venue every couple years just to support different businesses and then give it a little different feel.
For those who don't know how this goes, you've got a Living Legends induction, and I'm going to ask you who those are, and then you've got a Hall of Fame induction. Talk about that.
Yeah, so the overall program, and it's not just about this one night, is our Oneida County Historical Hall of Fame. And so it was started in 1946 and ran for a couple of years. And then it was sleeping, hibernating, and they revived it in 2000. And when they revived it in 2000, they added a category for living individuals. But both are really about celebrating and honoring people in local history and in our community. So everybody has made an impact either here locally or they're from here and they've gone off into the world and done amazing things.
And how are those people chosen?
Yep, so we ask for nominations every spring from the public. Anybody can submit, so we just ask for a little bio and whatever other information you want to provide. The Living Legends are chosen by an internal committee made up of mostly board members, and then our Hall of Fame inductees are selected by, we call it the Blue Ribbon Committee, but it's via email, but we invite all of the municipal historians, all of our volunteers, board members, and Living Legends who have been inducted. They all get to vote. And
not only does it recognize those folks, it's also a fundraiser for the society.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely a fundraiser for us as well. So we try to cover the cost of the event. So we put together an induction video for the Hall of Famers, those who are not with us. There's a bio booklet. We have the Proctor ROTC is going to come and do the color guard. So we try to cover all those expenses just so we don't have to. And then any proceeds are going to go towards we have a new exhibit on the Saturday Globe with an interactive element to it. So it costs a little bit more than we were anticipating. So we're trying to cover that, and then a couple of facilities projects. So This year we want to repaint our Hall of Fame gallery and then get a couple of new introductory panels and graphics as well. So we're really hoping we can raise some extra funds so we can get those projects done.
I'm going to talk to Patrick Reynolds about that Saturday Globe exhibit, newspaper exhibit, in just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll touch on that. You're also trying to raise money, are you not, Rebecca, for the front doors?
Yes, so we just wrapped up a campaign. We were primarily doing it through the Mohawk Valley Gives through the Community Foundation. Our front doors need some love. They need to be refinished to maintain their beauty and their historical authenticity. So we're hoping to get that project done this fall, and we did very well. We received a generous grant from the Oneida County to cover most of the project, but we needed $3,000, and so far we've raised $3,500. So yeah, we're excited about that. Just
who would think the doors are that expensive, huh?
I know.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just saving the old doors.
Right.
But prices are rising, and then if anybody doesn't know, our building was added to the Historic Register, both the state and national, this spring. So we do want to maintain aspects of our building that are original and that can be to get the talent
Yeah.
to take
Even
care
that
of
in
that.
itself, I don't think people realize how much work goes into. I mean, you just don't call up somebody and say, put our name on the list.
Oh no. Into the Mohawk Valley Gives?
Yes?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, you do have to sign up, which isn't too tough. I think the fundraiser was open to any nonprofit, but then you have to come up with your own landing page for the website, and of course your own marketing to
Right.
solicit your donations, and hopefully.
But I was thinking too about being on a National Register of Historic Places. Takes a lot of work to get on that.
That was a lot of work. So we ended up last year we hired a consultant, and it took her a couple months to put together the nomination and photographs, and it goes through this whole review process, first with the State Historic Preservation Office. Once they approve it and think it's ready, then it goes to the State Review Board, which they approved and recommended it for listing. And after that, it was forwarded on for consideration for the National Register, and that happened this past May.
It's a good, particularly for a history center, to have that designation, I think is very significant, yes?
Yes. So I think it raises awareness not just about our historic building, but other historic buildings throughout the community. And then it also makes us eligible for different funding to help keep up the building.
And refresh my memory, the status, you've put a new lift in or you're putting a new elevator in?
Yes, so it is almost complete. We're just waiting, they're finishing the automatic door operators so we can be compliant with new ADA accessibility rules.
I can't help but notice the big sign Utica there. Where does that come from?
Yes, so it's actually, it was not made in Utica, but it's from a boat called the Utica, and I believe it was down in New Jersey. And it used to live up in our balcony, and we decided to bring it down and show it off because it's a pretty cool piece.
Yeah. And above that, there's a picture of somebody who looks a little familiar.
Yes, that's Horatio Seymour. Among many things, he was a governor, New York State governor, and then also he was the very first president of our organization, which was called Oneida Historical Society at the time. Yeah.
And above that is a sword.
Yeah, that is his sword. Honestly, I'm guessing it's one of his ceremonial swords.
Okay. Speaking of exhibits, we'll talk about the newspaper exhibit in a little bit with Patrick, but exhibits that are up on the floor now, you've got the shoe exhibit that's still up.
Yep, we still have one about the Utica shoe industry. So everybody, or a lot of people know about the textile industry that was prominent here in Utica and the surrounding region. We also had a very large shoe industry, literally making thousands of pairs of shoes a day. Yeah, so that is one of our current exhibits. There's also one on the Underground Railroad in Utica and Whitesboro, not too much about the extending county. And then we also have one on cotton and the textile industry. So how cotton goes from a raw material, it follows a series of prints and turns into a product. And then we've paired that with artifacts from our collection and our community.
Talking about the collection, can you put a handle on just how big the collection is here?
I don't have updated numbers for you, but we always say, and these are old numbers again, but over 250,000 documents. I know we have over 4,000 postcards, thousands of images. I think we just finished re-inventorying the newspapers. I think we have over 10,000 issues of newspapers, and again, thousands of artifacts.
Yeah.
So,
when you have that kind of a collection, you have to be very careful with temperature, humidity, yes?
yeah, definitely. So there's ideal ranges for different types of materials. So it's about keeping it steady. So usually definitely below 68 degrees and kind of keeping it a mid-range humidity. You don't want it to get too dry for paper materials as well. And you certainly don't want it to be too humid. And then even, we don't have it, but you could do cold storage for stuff like photographs and films. There's a few things that could be stored.
And I look behind me and off to the side, I can see the book store. It's really a good, the best really, I think, in the area of where you can shop for history books.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of local bookstores out there today, which I find disappointing, but there are a few, and we focus specifically on local history and local authors. We veer a little bit into the Adirondacks, but yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, speaking of local authors, you're going to be doing an author's book fair, is that?
Yes, that's
the right name?
I think that's the term we're going to call it. We're calling it a book fair. So we are soliciting for authors. There's a tiny booth fee that they will pay to be with us, but then they'll sell their books, and we're not limiting it to history. So any type of author, any type of book. And that will be, I think, November 18th. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving, so maybe a good time to get your fall, winter reading, or even start your holiday shopping.
Yeah,
but we hope to have at least 10 authors, if not 20, and I know we have a couple others already signed up. So you can just contact Patrick Reynolds here at the History Center if you're a local author and you're interested.
That would be nice if that was a success, so that it could become an annual event, because there's not a lot of places for local authors to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's that's how the idea came to us. Someone had mentioned there used to be one up, I want to say, in Old Forge or Woodgate.
There was one up in Old Forge, and other places, but they seem to go by the side, so it's great that you're going to be doing that. In the time that we have left, mention again the time, the date, the place, and what people need to know to go to that dinner.
Yeah, absolutely. So our Historical Hall of Fame induction celebration is Thursday, October 19th from 5 to about 7:30 or 8 p.m. We're going to have a great opening reception with live music, a silent auction. There's a buffet dinner. And then we have speeches from our living legends, and then we have a video of our Hall of Fame inductees.
And mention who those people
Yeah,
are.
absolutely. And if people want to come, I will say we are asking everyone to buy tickets in advance, so by October 11th, so we can give the ICC an accurate count. And so we have 8 inductees in total this year, 4 Hall of Fame inductees and 4 living legends. And our Hall of Fame inductees are Robert Everett. He was a Welsh preacher and abolitionist. And you can read short bios of these individuals on our website, oneidacountyhistory.org, if anyone's interested. There's Mr. Norman Hill. He was among many things, but he was the first African-American real estate agent in Utica. I'm going to look at my notes now because I keep talking and forgetting. Who else do we have? I should have this memorized, which I usually do. Oh, yeah. Of course. Shirley Waters, pioneering newswoman, also advocate of the arts, so involved with the restoration of the Stanley Theater, establishing Griffith's Sculpture Park
From the Sentinel.
Yep. And then, yeah, I don't, is it 6 generations of the same family running the Sentinel now as well?
Waters family, yeah.
So, yeah, she was right there with the men, serving as vice president, I believe, and secretary. Don't quote me. I'll have to double check her bio. But she held leadership positions and was very involved in decision making and stuff, which wasn't necessarily common at the time.
Yeah.
And then for our 4th one, we're going way back in time to Colonel Marinus Willett. He helped defend Fort Stanwix during the Revolutionary War.
And real quickly, who are the living legends?
I'll just give you the names because it sounds like we're running low on time. But we have Richard Alexander, Yvonne Irvin, Judge Anthony Garamone, and Frank Giotto.
Very good.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Rebecca. Thanks for having us in. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk with Patrick Reynolds. Stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. The aforementioned Patrick Reynolds joins us. Patrick is in charge of the programming down here at the Oneida County History Center. I think I called it the Oneida County Historical Society earlier, but that's the old name. Patrick, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for coming down.
The exhibit that you're most involved with right now is the new exhibit on newspapers and in general, and the Utica Saturday Globe in particular.
Yep, Saturday Globe. It's such an incredible story for Utica to be proud of. Published in Utica for over 20, 30 years. First national newspaper to feature color illustrations.
You think about it, that a national newspaper was here. I mean, that in itself is...
Yeah, and really part of the reason was here was because of the railroad. Their building was on Whitesboro Street, and their back door basically led right to a loading dock, and they could put the newspapers right on to the train and send them to Chicago, send them to California.
And in fact, the building, the Saturday Globe building, after the Globe went out of business, became Horrick Ibbotson Fishing Tackle
Another
Company.
huge story, making fishing poles. They brought bamboo from China themselves for specifically making fly fishing rods. It's another story that we'd love to tell sometime.
You know, I was thinking of that when you were saying that there's a good exhibit right there, Horrick Ibbotson.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, people don't understand. Like the Saturday Globe, it was a national, business that sold all over the country.
Yeah, the Saturday Globe. When I think of that, I think of USA Today. Right.
That is often the analogy that people use, and I have a copy of the Globe here. Mm-hmm. And when it came, the modern analogy was that it was the USA Today of its time, and that's because it was national. They didn't just have local stories. They did have different editions, but really they were trying to sell papers across the country so that it was national and international news.
Mm. And the first, there's two, well, there's a lot of firsts, but one of the firsts was the Saturday Globe had the first illustration.
Right, that's Seymour, Horatio Seymour. That was in 1881. And at first they were very simple, just black and white woodcuts, if you would. Mm-hmm. Some of them were comically bad, which they even apologized that their pictures didn't come out that bad. But they were the first to do a color photo as well. So
what was the first color photo?
First color photo was actually just up the street in March of 1896. It was the burning of the Genesee Flats.
That was a huge fire.
Huge fire, which is, if you know about the Opelson today, it's essentially a building of the same scale and size. and it was a horrific fire where a couple people died as well. But that was the first color illustration. And of course, they like sensational news, big showy flames on the cover so they can sell more papers.
In fact, they sent their reporters quite some distances to get those stories, did they not?
Right, that was one of the selling points. The Johnstown flood, which happened, they were the first newspaper. They actually had the first people on the scene, and they sent an artist as well, so that there was lines and lines of stories and the horrific suffering and people dying, but also illustrations of what was going on in town with recovery and explosions and all kinds of things.
They had a unique distribution method too, Patrick.
Right, and they use it in their logo. He's up on the cover. They use newsboys on the corners. And there was, people call them urchins if you would, but they were sort of squadrons of ruffians who would get a percentage of each paper that they sold, and they had their own corners that they stood on, and if you interfered with them, they'd get to you.
Yeah, well, I never just delivered the Saturday Globe, but I delivered the Utica Daily Press and the Observer-Dispatch. We didn't have such territorial things that they had going on. But when you talk about the boys hawking the paper, there was on the front of the Saturday Globe building was a sculpture, I guess.
Yeah, it's a big terracotta tile sculpture. It was 61 inches in diameter, huge, that looked down on Whitesboro Street for years and years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're alluding to the fact that it sort of disappeared when the building came down.
It did, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't know where it is. We do in our research center, there's a flyer for an auction in Albany area, and it was up for sale. And it was listed at $10,000 to $13,000, and I've heard that it may have gone for more. I've tried to find where it ended up, and we don't know.
Yeah, and it's a sculpture of a boy hawking a newspaper, and I remember that sculpture up there for many years.
Yep.
And you've got something similar to that in your exhibit.
Yeah, I took the picture out of the auction catalog and blew it up so you could see what it was. It was actually a custom-made tile, I believe it was made in Boston, specifically for the Globe. And you probably couldn't see it from the ground, but actually the newspaper he was holding actually said the Saturday Globe on it. So it was custom-made for them.
Yeah, you could see it from the ground. I remember seeing it. But I remember what I was alluding to was you've got a sculpture, a little small sculpture back there that's something like it.
Right. As the word is getting out that we're starting a new exhibit here, one of our members brought in a little sculpture of a newsboy that is on exhibit, and it was custom made for him, and it really captures the essence of what the newsboys were doing.
Mm-hmm. There's a program in addition to the exhibit that you have here, and this will be up how long, Patrick?
It'll be up for about at least 3 months, probably longer, because it's a good story, and until we replace it with something else, we're happy to keep it up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're going to be here.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Along with Frank Tomeno.
Yeah.
And a couple other folks.
Pam Spearback and, let me see, who's the other one? Pam Spearback from the Sentinel. Myself, Frank, and Dave Didyak.
Dave Didyak, correct.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's November 4th.
Okay.
And we're calling the program Stories from the Press Room. And the idea is that you and Frank and others will share their stories of working in the paper, how things have changed, and maybe some more exciting stories of different things.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I was thinking about this program the other day, and the changes that have gone on in newspapers from when I started and when Frank started and Dave. Well, Pam's the young kid on the block, but it's amazing, you know. I mean, I started writing on a manual typewriter, and today, I mean, you know, everything is so computerized, and so that's going to be fun talking about all that. And it's going to be, when did you say?
November 4th.
Okay.
2 o'clock.
And it's going to be here at 2 o'clock, and I think we're going to have some fun. So I hope we have some a good attendance for that.
Excellent.
when you were researching the Saturday Globe, you're not as interested, I don't think, in newspapers as I am, because that's how I made my living for a lot of years. But was there something that jumped out at you
I mean, a lot of things. One was the typeface that they use. This is set in 10-point type, which is tiny. I can barely read it.
Right.
The technology that the Globe people actually developed to do color and halftone printing was huge. The fact that they were able to get national, international stories, no email, right?
Yeah.
They're doing telegraph at first,
Yeah.
then the phone they'd be calling in.
Yeah.
And it's just a fascinating story that they didn't invent any particular one point, but they were innovators in that they put it all together and got it to work.
And those, the founder of the Utica, the founders of the Utica Saturday Globe were the Baker brothers, yes?
The Baker brothers, Will and Thomas, and actually they lived right down the street. They lived right next to each other, and one of the homes is still standing. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and part of the decline in the later years was that the Baker brothers, one of them passed away and the other one was just getting kind of old, and they were really the brainchilds. Mm-hmm. There was an attempt to kind of keep it going and start another company to run it in lieu of the Bakers, but it really was the brainchild of those two.
And I think I saw in the exhibit you've got is it a safe deposit box?
Yeah, another one of our members who heard about the exhibit actually is a great-grandchild of the Bakers, great-grandchild. Family possession is the safety deposit box from the Bakers, which is kind of nice to have such a kind of a personal touch and a connection.
Yeah. Talk about some of the other things you've got in the exhibit.
Well, for the first time at the History Center, we're actually going to have a touchscreen computer with an interactive component to it. We have the collection of the Globe, which I'm holding on to a spare. I normally don't handle the real ones, but we have about 5 copies of The Death of William McKinley. But we wanted to be able to show as many as possible. So through this touchscreen, you can explore the wars, politics, patriotism, all the different symbolism that's going on. So that's a great addition to it as well.
You know, that touchscreen part of the exhibit is really nice. I mean, it kind of brings the History Center into modern times, having these kinds of things. I'm hoping that maybe is something that we're going to see more of.
Sure. It's an experiment to see how people, you know, I don't like people looking at their phones, you know, in the museum and things like that necessarily, but for a teaching tool, this is a very graphic subject matter, so it's a great addition to have.
And how many of those old Saturday Globes do you think you have in the collection?
Well, the Globe ran from about 1882 to 1920. We have the largest collection in the country that I know of. It's not like 100% complete because there's gaps, but I mean, there are thousands. So, you know, there's about 300 that you can explore in the interactive, but that's basically the equivalent of a year, and we have, you know, 20 years. So there's a lot more to go.
Well, congratulations on the exhibit, and I'm looking forward to coming down here on November...
For the Pressmen.
Yeah.
November 4th at 2 p.m.
I'll be here. Okay.
Very good.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, Joe.
And thanks, everybody. That's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back next week. We'll do it all again. Don't forget CNYhomepage.com. There's a lot of good stuff there. Until next time, take care of yourself.